All right, folks, welcome on back here this Tuesday, May 4th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin. I just did before live inside our trading room, so I should be good to go across there. Great to see Tony, who picked up some money just before on the VXRT trade. I see Skip, Michael, James, Bill, all of our students, Leda, Philip, Norman, Sharon as well, Debbie. All right, cool, perfect. So for all of them and for all of us on social media, Facebook Live and YouTube, welcome on back. To begin really quick, I didn't realize this. Let me just put the SPY up for right now. I'd like to just show an ETF or an index altogether just to see how the market generally is doing across the day. Here's the S&P ETF, the SPY. Pretty interesting. I ended up talking about this yesterday on a timing research podcast. You can go on their YouTube channel to listen. We were talking about what the S&P may do across this week, and I know a lot of analysts were already predicting it, but it's to say the writing was essentially on the wall. It was on the websites. So if you were kind of tuning in or just watching all together, you could see the market dipping heading into the close yesterday. Pretty flat across the whole, late morning, early afternoon. The S&P ETF, the SPY, this is, well, going into the final, hour, maybe 45 minutes of the trading day yesterday, ended up tailing off. And then in the after hours, dropped a bit further. And then, of course, after the open today, we saw the S&P take a big dip. So a lot of stocks ended up dropping off. But, to begin this PRPO trade, Jill says, I see the PRPO. You should. Just the SPY is on the 5-minute chart, just going over that briefly. This here, PRPO, goes to show, though, of course, you can make money even while the market's dropping. This stock was moving up leading into the market open. It was a huge move dating back to yesterday. We called this out perfectly going into this meeting yesterday, seeing this potentially re-break higher going into the close. And it was starting to do that, this time yesterday, but ended up making another snap higher going into the final hour. And that's what led this thing to make the move that it made. But, today ended up making another big move, shot up right away shortly after the market opened. But, oh my goodness, ended up coming down. I mean, I would say just as fast. Fausto says what goes up usually comes down twice as hard. Nonetheless, ended up beginning to break down much further going into the mid to late morning, the early afternoon. And now, for what it's worth, making a bit of a squeeze up, making a push roughly off of, we'll call it 530, maybe the 525, this dip point. Ooh, even lower, 515 roughly, but ended up beginning to peak back over 550, pushed up 75 cents already. So pretty volatile, which we like. Good spreads, good liquidity. I'll put this on our main list for right now. My only concern is just for the volume that it traded yesterday, the volume that it traded today, and for the move that it made so far already. How much can we keep expecting this to just go up seamlessly without shaking? So wouldn't shock me if this begins to come back down sooner than later. Maybe it goes up to 650 before that ultimately happens. But, we'll put this on our list to begin. You could actually see for right now, just kind of peeled away there for a second. Let's see if we can watch the bid. I saw just about like a 76,000 share iceberg on the bid just a moment ago here. It's pushing up. Well, I mean, that's a consequence of having such a big order on the bid popping up. I mean, for the meantime, it's beginning to push upward from that order. Keep an eye on the bid, roughly around 617, 618 on that trade. Maybe we'll even come back to this trade at the very end of it all. There we go, Kennedy. You saw that, right? Live inside our trading room. Looks like, a couple of us ended up seeing this. All right, cool. So, folks, what we'll do really just go from top to bottom. Amy says here, no sound on the YouTube feed. That should not be the case. I should be good. I'm seeing that I am good to go. I should be good across YouTube. Double check with me there again, Amy. Otherwise, nonetheless, though, we'll go from top to bottom. We had a couple of big moves across the top end of the gainers list here. This FYBR, I don't know what the hell this is. I'm going to actually skip over it. I looked at it much earlier, and it's not really doing that much at all. It's like, pretty wacky stock. All right, thank goodness. Cured my paranoia for a split second. Robert and Nicholas both saying there you could hear me. I ended up making a blunder maybe a week or two ago. I ended up going mute the first 15 minutes of the meeting, so I appreciate you folks backing me up there. Hey, it could always be me. Now the COCP, let's talk about this because we were talking about this when we were conducting our Traders Talk workshop earlier today for all of us live inside Cyber Group. I hope that you folks had a chance to tune into that at that hour. It's recorded. It will be on the student dashboard later this evening. For all of us on social media, feel free to join us here every day, but specifically every Tuesday, we conduct this webinar. Ended up analyzing the COCP trade, trailing down going into the open. Wouldn't have expected it to make the move right out the gate. So, that's what we mainly focused on, seeing this begin to coil up and then make the push up going into the mid-morning shortly after 10 a.m. So, we analyzed this move earlier in Traders Talk, not going to go much further into the morning push. Now, going into what happened after Traders Talk for all of us here, at least in the trading room, where we left off, this was kind of coiling up, right? And I was saying, if it's not going to break out any higher, then there's only one other way it's going to go. We left off practically right here at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So, never broke lower, but ended up making the push, right? Popped above 285 resistance, made a push upwards for just about another like 50 cents, really 60 cents. Now, unfortunately, on this trade, I didn't catch this because we were finishing up the workshop. I was, teaching, and then after that, I'm taking a break. Just a lot of talking early in the day today. So I was taking a small break, missed this push. That's fine. Not normally the best time to be trading anyway. Probably going to catch a good move going into this next, hour and a half. Well, I ended up beginning to trade this. I jumped in as this broke above resistance right here at $3.30. I wish that my trade station would cooperate and show you the exact time in which I got in. So I was doing this on 2,000 shares. It's cheap. Cheap, tight spread. If it's not going to break lower, there's only one other way it's going to go, right? So I thought there was a great chance. And much like Fausto himself chimed in going into the afternoon, you normally don't see him in the trading room in the afternoon. He was still looking at this trade saying it was strong. Then out of nowhere, I mean, you can't really predict this. I don't even think news came out at the time. Ended up beginning to make this, horrible shake on the way down. So where I got in from 330 here, I was in at 331. I ended up closing 1,000 shares, half my position out at 343 or somewhere around there, 342, 344, whatever. I set a stop on the remaining half of my position to ride it out. I was, hoping for the home run on the second end. Or second half of my position. And then out of nowhere, this massive shake happened. So, I mean, first and foremost, since I stayed away from it, there could have been a good bounce entry off of 250 after, it looks like, but I stayed away after. I ended up getting stopped out on the second half of my position at 323. I ended up getting stopped out at. I was very thankful to get stopped out at in the first place because of how quick this dropped. It's very easy for a stop limit order to get skipped over. And should that happen, it's you're kind of screwed unless if it ends up making a pop back up suddenly to take you out again on the ask. That was a very dangerous situation. I brought this up generally to all of us live inside the trading room, and I'll say it again. If you got stuck in this shake, I would imagine, and no one wants to admit it, of course, but I would imagine there's probably about 3 to 4 of us live inside Cyber Group right now out of the 110, 120 of us that got caught in the shake. Not only on this, but look at the same thing that happened on another big move that we caught from today, the BLRX. It was almost like in sync, in sequence there. I mean, I don't think that they're related to one another, but as soon as this shake happened, going into the 2 o'clock hour, the same damn thing happened on the BLRX, right? This may have happened maybe a couple minutes beforehand or a couple minutes afterwards. I forget exactly the chronology on it, but ended up making a big shake. I mean, it's not too surprising in the grand scheme of things. You just hope to see it make the big, perfect, steady push up. I mean, not every trade, unfortunately, can be like the PRPO from yesterday, right? And that was the one that we started this meeting off with. Beautiful push into the afternoon. I mean, not everyone's going to be that easy, folks. If it was that easy, none of us would be live inside our trading room right now. I wouldn't feel a need to be teaching. None of us would feel a need to be joining us on social media here today or every day, right? So we just always have to think about that. We always need to set our stops for every trade that we get into, because this is easily the consequence of a false breakout. If it's not breaking higher, again, I keep saying the same lines for a reason, right? So I narrowly avoided a huge shake again on that COCP. At this point, between that, the BLRX, for as much volume that both of these stocks are currently trading going into the afternoon, I don't know what the floats are. I don't really care. At this point, after that shake, I'm just going to pass. If they end up making a freak move back up, then, we'll try and, call it out, see if we can get a good opportunity on it. This retrade ended up making a nice push. Wow, for the support level here off of 125. I know that one of us commented on this trade much after the initial pop here. We called out the pop right away. Fausto did, actually. He called this out right off the pop and the halt. Ended up reopening up, but came back down. It was pretty nasty. Well, the volume died off after. So at that point, much more often than not, you just move on. You say, that's it. It's like a pop and drop, pump and dump type play, probably going to break lower. Well, ended up doing the unlikely move here of squeezing back up to not only break higher here, but even afterwards on the pop and drop. This thing still has a lot of strength to it right now. I mean, a beautiful push back up. So I don't know what's going on with this retrade. And I'll check Benzinga Pro pretty quickly. I'm a little curious. I'll check. I don't want to be fully ignorant to the news. But it just goes to show, though, that we're not going to put a stock on our list unless if it has the momentum behind it. So, the news out on this stock, Reed shares trading higher after the company announced an expanded distribution agreement with CVS Pharmacy. All right, so fairly big company, right? So we ended up seeing them make a big pop right out the gate. But again, that doesn't always guarantee continuation. Just the fact that this is holding support so well over 125 doesn't guarantee this move back up. The fact that we have this move back up is the reason that we're putting this on our list in hopes of seeing this breakout much higher going into the afternoon here. All right, so right on cue there from Andreas call out. He probably called that out like the second I turned over to this trade live inside our trading room. All right, let's keep it going. STIM is a stimulus check. Neuronetics, interesting. I don't know if this is like a new IPO or whatever the case may be here. Doesn't seem to be. Before today, last 50 days, it was trading under 400,000 shares per minute. That's pretty light. Today, trading 4.2 million, so pretty heavy compared to the average. The stock is shortable. That piques my interest because if this fails to pop and run higher and it snaps back down on some false breakout, then it could be a good opportunity. I'm going to pass on it for right now. I mean, it's making a bit of a move up, from 13 to 14 here. But I want to see more out of this trade. I want to see the order book fill in more. I feel like there could just be like a lot better trades to work with going into the close. That's all. Maybe we'll come back to this. TYHT dumped off. This is the consequence, right, of what happens after the volume kind of craps out. So again, not every trade could be the PRPO. Not every trade could be, BLRX or even COCP, albeit those stocks made the nasty shake. They ended up making good moves, at least up until that point, for about like 2-3 hours worth. Let's jump to Mavis, number 11 here. Familiar name, obviously. Ended up making a big squeeze going into the early afternoon. I want to recheck Benzinga Pro. I didn't see any news to justify the run up here. Yeah, that's exactly what Benzinga Pro says here. Microvision, we nickname it Mavis, shares trading higher. Not seeing any news to justify the price action. That's what they're saying. So, hey, we don't need news again to trade a stock. This stock seems to still carry a lot of momentum, especially off the re-break off of 16 here. Ended up seeing another push and buying volume coming in. So I would say at this point it needs to still crack over 1650, but still looking pretty interesting. As far as a buy opportunity, it's hard to borrow from TradeStation, but if you can get the shares to short, if you can get approved, or if you're on a different broker platform that makes this easy to borrow, then again, at least that could be an opportunity should this false break from the 1650. So it seems like a really big level, right? So, if it breaks above the order that's on the ask at 1650, you expect a pretty big move from that price. If it pops and then drops right away after, don't hope. So, that's where I'd say set a tight stop, get out, and then maybe try and reposition yourself later on, or try and follow it on the way down should that happen. All right, so we're looking pretty good across the gainers end here. I saw Tony pick about 18 cents or 20 cents across two trades on the VXRT stock, number 18 on the gainer side. A little push so far from 850 up to 910, 60-cent move. Not bad. VXRT is a familiar name, so I certainly will come back to this at the end. I don't mind giving this a second look. Just see if there's, better opportunity otherwise, more relevant volume or, trends pushing up high of the day, low of the day. This is spotty. Yeah, so the market dumping off today. The inverse ETFs are still on the gainers end here between SQQQ. I know Fausto was calling out the UVXY in the morning. We don't trade ETFs too frequent, folks, but when we see the markets drop off or the markets even push up, then they provide better opportunities to attempt to trade. Between these, the other ETFs that follow different sectors like the gold mining sector, oil. All right, let's hop over to the losers list, though. I don't see much across the gainers end really in terms of familiar names. So let's see, BTX down 30% today. I mean, you got to figure that was going to happen. So I'm not patting myself on the back saying I told you so here, but it just goes to say, I mean, this can't keep going up forever, right? This is exactly what I try and warn folks of. Just when they see a stock push up this much, they want to jump in and ride the wave. Yeah, that's until the wave comes crashing down on them. So this is very likely to continue to drop off, across this week. If it's not tomorrow, then I'd assume it's by Thursday, Friday. It will tank much lower. Nah, not a whole lot happening there. Is SDC shortable? I saw this from the morning. I passed on it. I just thought that there was a better opportunity, but in retrospect, I wish I ended up jumping in. I was considering a short. It was a bit right off of like 915 or 920, somewhere in this consolidation. But shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? I had a good day, though, gotta say. I mean, that last shake on the COCP definitely scared the life out of me for a moment. That was a near life ending experience, so that could have wiped me out completely. Saber, yeah, not a whole lot here, folks. All right, so if there's anything else up, down, left, right, for all of us live inside Cyber Group, for all of us on social media, type it in the chat board, let me know. What do you think of Mara? Bonnie's asking here. So let's jump to Bitcoin. I don't think I brought it up yesterday. I wanted to get in my own little tangents at times, so I apologize for that. Mara, I mean, it's a sideless stock. It almost always is, unless if it's on our main watch list, that is. Meaning that if you do well on Mara on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis, much more often than not, if you do well day trading this, then it doesn't hurt you to follow it. Don't overwhelm yourself between this and then all of the other stocks that are on the watch list so far. So you got to pick and choose a little bit. But I would say the same with this as I would with like any other stock that would be on our quote unquote side list. At least ones that are more actively moving. Mara definitely is more actively moving. It looks like AAL, one of the airlines, one of the cruise lines. These aren't really making as big of a jolt up. That Mara is making a bit of a push off that 3350. Mike says X up today, the side. Yeah, I don't think I went over X today. I mean, I just went from top to bottom on the gainers side, so I guess I didn't find it. It was number 48 at the very bottom of the gainers list here. For what it's worth, it's practically at the highs. Ended up doing well on this stock yesterday, squeezed it up, pretty nicely going into the close. And for what it's worth right now, I mean, after this ugly shake going into 2 p.m. and after, recovered nicely. So, you know what? We don't really have too many stocks on our list. I'll give this a look. And I say that because X is up 6.6%. Mara is approaching this last peak, but it's still far off from the highs. And it's just to say, a lot of times these Bitcoin related stocks, we typically know what happens to them. I would put Mara right on the watch list if they were down like 15% already at this point in the afternoon, or 10%, because much more often than not, if they're trending down already at the lows, that gives me much more confidence to expect a dead cat bounce and then for them to reverse and not continue. So I'm just more uncertain about Mara's direction, where I'm more hopeful of X, breaking a new HOD. For Bitcoin, though, you could just see here pretty quickly. I mean, there's a lot going on between my moving averages here, but let's see, is this the hourly? Yeah. So you could see on the hourly graph going into May over the weekend, we ended up catching the pop. This is practically after Friday, after I most recently showed this chart. So ended up having a nice pop. No real news came out at the time, though. I mean, maybe a couple of exchange-related news making available to U.S. clients. I think Bitstamp, one of them, but ended up coming back down, right? Like I said this back from last week or the week before, we're not out of the doghouse yet on Bitcoin by any measure. I mean, seeing this push back up off the lows was great, but to expect consolidation from where these moving averages were, converging is very likely to happen. I mean, you can see that across any given equity, US equity, a stock that we would trade, should you happen to put it on your hourly chart or daily chart, any chart really. But it's just to say, though, that, hey, if this ends up, or I should say, if the markets continue to dive off, like I was alluding to from that timing and research podcast yesterday, look at the SPY today. It took a big hit. No surprise to see Bitcoin drop today, this morning, going into the afternoon. Small little bounce back right now. You could see the S&P ETF, the SPY, slowly squeaking back up still. So yeah, you'll get some stocks that go with it. And check out VXRT. I had this on the quote unquote side list here. Check out anyone on Facebook Live, YouTube also coming up. I saw from Nicholas NTP, and then Mitch calling out CLF here. So VXRT for right now still seems relatively volatile. I don't mind slipping this just on our list at the tail end. We don't really have too big of a list at all right now. I think in total I put 5 stocks now with the VXRT making it. And then we'll check out CLF. It's at the highs, right? It's up 10+%. So I'll put this on our list for the same reason I would put X on our list, right? Just, at the highs, it's making a push up right now. If the markets continue to, recover or squeeze back up, then, hopefully this goes with it even further, right? NTP looks good into the close. Spotty chart. It's at the highs, which I do like. So, I appreciate you saying that. Trading just barely above the minimum requirement that we would look for going into this time of the day, like barely over 500,000 shares. Just a very spotty chart, huge spread. We don't really need to trade a stock like this when we would trade a stock like CLF that, has a much more contained spread. So it's just a little bit more manageable to try and get in and get out at. I mean, you could say the same on US Steel should that pop higher. You could say the same on Mara, even though I'm not putting that on the list. I mean, spreads are still fairly contained on this trade. All right, so folks, I think that we are just about good to go. Checking out my Benzinga Pro Signals page here. I don't really see much, nothing that looks too tempting. Actually, PRPO of all the stocks there is shaking back down quite a bit. So, the run is done on this trade. I think I might even scratch this off our main watch list now at this point with this dropping off. I mean, unless if you could short this, probably not worth the time here. The profit taking coming in, it's been breaking down, I mean, across this whole meeting. So actually, they make it from 6 back down to 5. All right. So pretty simple list heading into this Tuesday afternoon, folks. If there's anything else that we happen to catch, if you folks see something, you say something, I'll do the same, of course. We'll work together as a team live inside our trading room going into this next final hour. For all of our members on social media, Facebook Live and YouTube, I will actually make this announcement right now, a little breaking announcement. I'll keep making this announcement going forward. This won't be the only time. But actually, coming up next Tuesday, we will be doing our live weekly Traders Talk workshop on social media. We typically do that maybe 2 or 3 times across the entire calendar year, giving you a little sneak peek inside our live trading room. So, hey, if you'd like to learn more about Cyber Trading University, hey, follow us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/cybertradingu. Go right down to the link on the banner below to get started inside our trading room. And if not, no sweat, feel free to join us at least coming up next Tuesday for free on YouTube with our Traders Talk workshop. All right. So again, I'll make that announcement going forward. Keep reminding us all going into this week, going into next. And for all of us live inside the trading room right now, just give me a quick moment. I'm going to copy and paste the picks. I'm going to jump on a quick coaching call right now myself, and I'll be back on at 3:30 going into the market close. I'll talk to you all then. Take care.